learn anything heading into our second match of the day. We do have our loadouts here. It does seem like Crawnster's bringing the same thing he used against Tim yesterday. Again, that double Viper, Raptor Ellipse, fast Hammer Ellipse, very fast, very aggressive build. Tim, not going with anything too special. I'd love to see him pull out that Luma that Nova like he did yesterday. But, you know, this might be the start of a comeback for Tim. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and we'll see if we see the amazing comeback here.
Yeah, you're referencing the fact that they did play earlier in this bracket. That was one of the first matches we had yesterday, and Crawnster took it 3 games to 0. So here in the rematch, have to be some changes from Tim.
Yep, absolutely. He fought Baby Spine yesterday, managed to secure his spot in the matches today, and like you said, he's going to have to make some changes here if he's going to want to come back and beat Crawnster at his own game. He did have the benefit, though, of watching his matches yesterday and really learning from him. You're going to see that. Again, another common trend that a lot of high-level players are doing. Crawnster actually curving around the shield there, managing to get through Tim sitting at just about half health, but he's slowly making it back.
Crawnster looking around for something to grab. Oh, nice evasion right there against the nade. Did a great job at separating himself as much as possible from it. You can just see how close that was to hitting Tim right there from his perspective.
Yeah. Crawnster nearly going vertical on most of these shots. That's going to be... Ooh! Hey. I don't think he was taking that much damage there from the Hammer Ellipse. Crawnster going to go ahead and take round 1.
2, 1. Instantly trying it out as Crawnster right there. You can see that Viper Ellipse shot attempt. Finding a little bit for himself. Tim really trying to dip out of that range.
Ooh, all right. Just light little bit of damage. No damage being landed on Crawnster so far this match. The Wildcat's making contact. And he's going to go down to about a quarter health. Oof, and again, the hammer coming through. Although, Tim going ahead and landing a Luma shot. That's going to get him a little bit further towards taking back this health disadvantage.
Crawnster's going to have to... Oh, wow. Just masterful evasion right there. He saw exactly where that little hole was. Hold on a second, though. He takes a bunch of damage. Right back on Tim. There's another shot in that Viper. And he finds it.
Double. The double Viper Ellipse shots back to back. Crawnster is going to go ahead and take a match 1 off of that Raptor Ellipse. Very well played from both these two. And we're going to be jumping right into our second match.
Hey, no change.
No changes. No changes needed. Tim's going to win today. He's going to win off of this loadout.
Yeah, well, I like the idea that he comes in here with a set idea rather than, well, you know, it's not working out so well for him yet again. He tries it out with the Luma. Crawnster out of the way yet again. His dodging's been great.
Oh, no!
Wildcats connect.
Oh, man.
Tim in trouble yet again. There's still... 1:35 on the clock. It's been 25 seconds, and Crawnster has just deleted that health bar on the left. Tim in huge trouble.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. I was waiting for that last hit to land. Crawnster going to go ahead, take round 1. Yeah, just... Again, you know, we talked about it yesterday. We talked about a lot of stuff yesterday.
We did.
How do you recover when you've taken just so much damage from that Viper Ellipse? It becomes very, very difficult, you know, especially considering not running the double Viper. You have an overall DPS that's much lower than what Crawnster's bringing. Although landing that Luma in the first 20 seconds, that's always good to see.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. It's something he's going to need more of.
Yep.
He waits it out there. The nades to his left, or to his right. Look at the movement here on Crawnster. You don't know where he's going to get the shots out. Tim just waiting just dodge, to his credit.
Bit anticlimactic from Crawnster. I think he could hit it next time off of that. But yeah, I mean, you know, the intimidation.
Right.
Trying to force movement from your opponent, trying to keep him guessing. Ooh! Especially with these sorts of weapons, you gotta have the mind games. The physicality's one thing, but the mind games are a completely different part of it.
We're taking a look from his perspective here, and it works out. That man was dancing. His back was to Tim sometimes. He had both of his hands waving up in the sky. And Tim says, all right, finally, I'm going to have to make a change.
Right, right, absolutely. And again, you know, especially with the Vipers, you see a lot of feigns. You see a lot of feigned shots, a lot of feigned curves. Yeah. And, you know, as silly as that looks, I've genuinely had another player do that sort of movement to me after they've brought me down to half health. And it is just as intimidating as truly.
Yeah, first of all, I don't even think it looks silly. I think that looks sick.
I think it looks scary. Scary as heck.
Yeah.
But yeah, and as far as, you know, what could be brought, again, you know, from yesterday, I'm a big advocate of that Nova. And at least in my Nova-centric mind, I'm thinking, if I want to stop big damage projectiles that have very low collision, I want to bring Nova.
Okay. Well, what Tim had yesterday in this same matchup was pretty different. He had Viper Ellipse, he had a Lance Nade, if you recall, as well. He had the Hurricane in there, so he had quite a different take on stuff. When that didn't work out, he switched over to Frostbite and Luma, having given up the Viper Ellipse. So, I mean, he did try a few different things. Again, it didn't work out. Crawnster won that when they last played 3-0. But, you know, maybe that's where his mind goes to now. He sees Crawnster doing a great job at getting around what he's trying to set up. And, you know, maybe if you have something like the Lance Nade, you can, you know, force movement in a little bit of a different way. Maybe he feels like he can't get that big damage when he wants. So maybe there's going to be a Viper Ellipse coming back, as you did have that yesterday. There's a bunch of different ways he could go here.
Yeah. Yeah, and that Lance Nade, you know, there were a couple times where he managed to get that high damage Lance Nade off. But, you know, most players we were seeing really doing a good job of recognizing it, dodging off to the side, baiting it out, and then coming back to the center in preparation for the rest of the combo to go out. Now he's replaced that, I believe, with that that Hammer Nade. And again, we're seeing that extra spread Hammer Nade doing a good job when it gets close to the player when it pops. Not doing a great job when the players are throwing it out to the side of the podium and having it come from behind. So, you know, maybe plugging that hole a little bit more with a little bit of additional bullet hell. Again, maybe running some additional defensive options against Crawnster. Again, it's very difficult when you have an opponent like Crawnster who, you know, not only has an immaculate amount of game knowledge, but also can dodge really, really effectively against most stuff that you're sending at them.
And also has the mind games and mix-ups to be able to stand at the front of his podiums with both of the Vipers in hands, waving for a while. When that happened, Tim did have a couple of weapons that he could have grabbed. He could have counterattacked right there, but you could see that he was waiting it out. He was worried. I get it. Like, I understand why. I would be worried as well. But that was potentially a moment where he could have tried to take back control to at least some degree. Yeah. So I think it's a little bit more than just the weapons that you have here. It's also, you know, are you willing to counteract in those moments? Would you rather play cautiously, safely? You know, many different playstyles can be viable, but that in that moment, it seemed like that was a tough draw for Tim to deal with. So what is the change here?
The Nova, you know it. You know it.
He did it?
He did it. I called it. What do you want from me, guys?
So he gave
I'm
up
a
the
fan
Aegis
of the
and he went to
Nova.
Nova.
Tim's making me very happy right now. I actually, what you guys didn't know is I gave him $5 if he ran the Nova.
Right.
Last match. And actually, he's running something that we haven't seen gotten run at all in this entire tournament, I want to say. Bounce Nova. So Crawnster's coming at him with a little bit of Bounce Viper. He's firing back with that Bounce Nova. And that, you know, on top of obviously having those projectiles come from behind your opponent, that defense is actually going to stick around for a little bit longer.
So he's given up the Aegis Shield for this. Only the third person to have played, only third game, I should say, for the Nova to have appeared in this tournament so far.
And again, especially with the Bounce Nova, where its health is severely lowered. Severely lowered on the health Nova. You really got to be careful with not using it as just a defensive option, not relying on it too much, really maintaining it as a hazard on your opponent's side of the field. But it seems like he's doing a good job against Crawnster here so far.
I mean, Crawnster, you could see him just shoot those Novas down. He had the Hammer Ellipse right there, just shot him down. So he is doing a good job of keeping up with Oh, wow! I think Tim actually dipped into that. The straight shot there on the Viper. Not going to connect. But close here for Crawnster against Tim. Tim in big trouble, and that's going to be it. So it's match point just like that for Crawnster.
Just like that. Yep, absolutely. And again, you know, the good news there is that if he's using a Hammer Ellipse shot on the Nova, he's not using it on, Tim's body,
Yeah.
the soft, squishy body that's already taken a lot of damage.
True.
But at the same time, it's a 7-second cooldown weapon versus a 6-second cooldown weapon. So it still is not advantageous. Tim really wants to be using those as a hazard. Does not want to be relying on them too much as a defensive option.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can see they're just missing the podium right there some of these times as well. Crawnster not really forced to move because of them. He's got his Viper in hand. He's got double Vipers in hand. Oh no, the juggles are coming out too.
Ooh, but the Novas pretty much shut down that double Viper right then and there. And two of them are going to pass through. The Luma does manage to land. Crawnster looking behind him, very nervous about those Novas. Tim's going to turn up the pressure, try and get something done here. Ooh, it does look like most of them are unfortunately going to go wide.
Okay, good damage there. Crawnster, as you can see, he's got.
Tim doing a great job of
Vipers.
ducking underneath those Vipers, too.
Yeah, definitely. That's been huge in this round. Nade's coming from up top. It does land a little bit.
30 seconds left. I think at the end of the day, this was a good change from Tim. Oh no, Tim! I'm so sorry I said anything!
The curse comes out from behind the back right there as Crawnster's whipping his whole body around to try to find these shots.
Ooh! Manages to use the vision block of Tim's own Novas to go ahead and land that straight Viper shot.
Tim just fighting for his life at this point. 10 seconds left. He's got to find a big shot, and it doesn't happen yet again. Clapping of the hands. They go up to congratulate each other. Crawnster again. 3-0 over Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it definitely improved his overall play. But, again, with that bounce Nova, they are just so weak when it comes to the collision. That's very hard to keep them on the field for long enough for them to actually be effective. And that is all of our matches heading into the semifinals here with Wesso and Crawnster continuing forward. And I do believe we're going to have Captain Fabulous back on our analyst desk.
Hey.
Cap, what do you think?
I think that this was an unfortunate matchup for Tim because, all of us know that Tim is a phenomenally top player. And all of us also know that Crawnster is also one of those players. But the trouble for Tim is he's always really struggled with the Viper aggression because there's a bit of latency issues that can happen between playing in Australia versus NA. And Crawnster is just such an aggressive, such an effective Viper player that it's kind of a style of loadout which Tim struggles against and Crawnster excels against. So it's in the rock, paper, scissors of matchups. This is one that Tim was not particularly favoured in, I'd say. But I did really like the idea of bringing the Novas, especially Bounce Nova. I'm not necessarily something I would normally pick, but just because when you're playing double Vipers, they don't tend to have a lot of ability to deal with Bounce Novas. Although Crawnster bringing that Hammer Ellipse actually meant that, he did have something he could deal with it. Plus, he had Raptor shots and 3 Raptor shots takes out a bounce Nova. So maybe an HP Nova could have done more justice there, especially as if they were better placed bounce Novas and they came back on the podium on the way back, that could have added some more pressure. But that's really hard to say when you're trying to aim them as someone swinging 30 points of death every time it comes near you. But love to see the traditional Crawnster flair in the play as well. He's a really fun player to watch.
Yeah, his control enough, not just in terms of dealing damage, but in terms of making his opponent worried enough to do nothing as he stood there at the front of the podium, waving both of the Vipers around. That to me says that he had a great read on his opponent rather than, about the weapons, right? Obviously relevant, but his read on his opponent in terms of the mix-ups of understanding what Tim was likely to do. That seemed very difficult for Tim to overcome.
I think that's just... I don't necessarily know if that's because Crawn reads Tim, or that's just because Crawn is Crawn.
Crawn's going to do that read or what?
A little bit about.
Okay.
I mean, I was scrimming Crawn last night, and he would always go to the front of the podium, and I'd get some pot shots off him, just because he liked being at the front, and then he'd hit me twice. So it was all worth it. But he's a very aggressive player, a player with a lot of flair and style. But that flair adds to his performance because, when he swings it around a bit before going in, that's just another level of unpredictability that the player has to account for. If you're swinging in a very telegraphed movement every time when you do a Viper lip shot, you can see where it's going to go. If you swing it around like Harry Potter Expelliarmus style, like Crawn likes to do, then where it could go anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And last time in Wesso and Woody, we talked about how to counter players that are sitting at the bottom of their podium and just sort of sliding around. But like you said, especially with double Vipers, you really want to be sitting as close to the front of your podium as possible. How do you, with a player who's good at dodging, who's just sitting there on the front of their podium, how do you put pressure on them enough to get them to back up from the front of their podium, sort of flat foot?
So, there are a couple of ways. You use nice counter pressure, just shooting like a raptor or a wildcat. It's a cheap source of damage, and it's something they're going to have to dodge. They're very good at dodging, they can do it, but it's going to be harder for them to put damage. Also, a hammer is a great way, especially charge hammer. If you charge up a charge hammer and they get to the front and you just go, get back, and hit them in the chest, that is basically a don't touch me kind of play style. And but again, Novas is another great way. You could put a wall of Novas, and they kind of have to go back a bit. That's probably how I'd go about it. It really comes down to build choices and counter pressure.
Thanks for the perspective. We're going to move on and check out this current state of